Hello, English 100 students. This is Dr. Erin Williams again. We're here for lesson 4, week 1, and I haven't seen you in a while, so I thought I would have the webcam on just to say hello. So far you've got a couple blog entries put up, and you're keeping up with the reading, and you figured out that I post lessons twice a week. One on the first part of the week and one on the second part. You don't have to do them when I post them, but I highly recommend it. So let's get right into it. This first part of the lesson is really kind of about moving from reading to writing, as you can see here. This reading you read from both the Easy Writer and from Writing in Response. And they seem to be about some pretty different things. So we really have two objectives in this lesson. I want you to I want to do some review about what academic reading entails, and this is so that you will be prepared to do some academic writing in the not so distant future. And I want you to be thinking about a text's rhetoric, because I want you to be able to identify important rhetorical patterns not only in the texts that you read, but pretty soon in the texts that you will write, so that you will be well informed, you'll be making smart choices, not just intuitive choices, or choices that feel right but you don't know if they're right. So we're going to be moving past all that. Alright, so we'll be doing two things in this lesson, kind of going over the reading and going over some review things, and then we'll have a sort of fun example of analyzing a text's rhetorical situation. Okay, so this should look kind of like a brief review of where we've been. We've been talking about all different kinds of reading that are going to be really important for you in your academic career. You may be able to think back to some of the details of these different types of reading, but overall we've been talking about academic reading, so reading some pretty complicated texts. That involves active reading, so reading where you're taking notes in the margins or taking notes about what you read. Here's some of what my margins look like, or my text. I was doing a lot of underlining for this section. Here's what my margins look like in other examples. So, doing some kind of active reading like that. At the same time, you're doing critical reading, so you're not just accepting everything that you read, but instead wondering about what does it mean, does this argument make sense, those sorts of things. And then the responsive reading comes when you start asking questions of the text. You're reading in response to ideas. Alright, so this is really part of a larger scope of issues that are important in this sort of academic process. So what happens in the academy is that you start with reading. You read some pretty complicated texts, and you have to be pretty engaged in them. You have to be a sort of skillful reader. And then from there, you move to thinking and research. So you want to have some time to think about the texts that you read that are pretty complicated, right? That's why the book suggests... sorry, I forgot I was going to zoom in on that. That's why the book suggests exploratory writing. It gives you sort of a space to think in, for example. Now, our author, Matthew Parfit, has a few recommendations for exploratory writing to help you think about the complicated texts you read. Some of those suggestions are asking questions as you read, doing some other kinds of writing, including recording thoughts in a journal. The blogs that I'm having you guys read are pretty much that same kind of exploratory writing, where you're just trying to generate ideas or generate research questions, trying to find ways that what you're thinking about is interesting, not just, every day. Trying to look for some new insight that helps kind of move the production of knowledge along. That's really, in my opinion, what the Academy is here to do. Take knowledge and see what new applications we can have from it, and that helps us further refine our knowledge. Okay, so that's why exploratory writing can be important. You guys read some sample exploratory writing in the assignment for this lesson. I want you to know that compared to the blogs that I've assigned you, that's relatively informal. Now, you guys are becoming more and more rhetorically aware, and so you might go back through that sample exploratory journal and look for clues. How is it more informal? You guys know now to look for things like word choice and tone. Could you go back through that and identify some relatively informal tone, word choice, sentence structure? Feel free to use the Easy Writer while you go back through and do that, just so that you will know the difference between what I expect and what was there in that kind of exploratory writing. Okay, so when it comes to this thinking and research, this is the second part of this sort of larger academic process. We've talked about the thinking and how you need time and space to kind of generate thoughts, and exploratory writing can help you do that. Matthew Parfit, our author, also suggests that, at the same time that you're doing this thinking, you may also need to do some further research about the things that you're reading about. That means you're doing more reading. This is what makes the academic process kind of recursive. It comes back on itself. So here we're back to reading. You may need to be doing a close reading of the text that you're analyzing. You may need to do some outside research. So that may entail a trip to the library. It may entail looking at what other people have said about the kind of text you're looking at. We aren't there yet, don't worry, I'm not sending you to the library just yet, but that's coming up. So just know that happens kind of at the same time that this exploratory writing can happen. You may find yourselves, as you're writing your blogs, for example, wondering about something that you didn't know about. The internet is there to help, fill in some blanks. The library is there to give you what experts have to say about your topics. So anytime you find yourself wondering about something else, just know that you can always do some outside research to help further explore that topic. All right, so the thinking and research then should be kind of done with an awareness of the rhetorical context, right? Especially for you guys as writers. Some of what you're interested in is how does this text, how is it shaped by its author? How does it give me a sense of who the author is? What message does the author want me to understand? How does that relate to how they've chosen to formulate this text? Those are all important aspects of the rhetorical situation that you may find a text in. All right, so that leads us back to the issue of writing. When you are reading in response, hopefully that leads you to writing in response. So this is where we're headed, but we aren't there yet. Right now we're just dealing with some important academic reading skills, and pretty soon you'll get a writing assignment, but not just yet. Just know that it's coming. Before you can get there, in order to make smart writing choices, we need to be talking about, you guys to be thinking about how the texts that you read are formulated. So I want you to be aware of their rhetorical situation and some of the rhetorical choices that different writers make. All right, so You'll have to do that for academic texts. So let's do a non-academic text first, just so that you can have some fun with it before we get to all the serious stuff. Okay. So this is a public service announcement. You may want to pause the video here and take a look at it, and read the fine text, the fine print down there in the corner. So think about what you see here and just your basic reaction to it. Now let's start reading more actively and critically, and particularly paying attention to the rhetorical choices made in this text. I'm basing this list of ways to describe the rhetorical situation on what you read about in the Easy Writer. So you may want to pause here and ask yourself, if I had to describe the stance or the tone or the genre or the format or the language of this particular public service announcement, what would I say? You can use your Easy Writer to help you think about that. Here's what my analysis of the rhetorical situation would look like. How do I know who the audience is? Well, I'm gonna guess it's maybe young people, or at least people who text. Why would I think that? Because it looks like a young person in the picture, and I kind of assume they want to be talking, the authors want their message to get across to this particular audience. So they're finding a way to kind of speak to them by choosing a picture with somebody who kind of looks like them. What's their stance? What's their perspective on this? Well, they want people to be safe, right? Now, notice an important rhetorical element that the Easy Writer didn't make a big deal about, and that's author. Did you see the website that this public service announcement came from? Or where you can go to get further information? That should tell you something about the authors. It seems kind of odd that they would care about this, right? Maybe not. Why would AT&T care about this? Anyway, their stance seems to be that they want, their perspective on this is to advocate for the safe use of the service that they provide. Tone. Tone comes out in word choice, so you gotta pay attention to the words to know the tone. From what I can tell, it seems to be kind of funny and yet very serious, which is kind of an odd pairing. Funny but serious. Media. What kind of document is this? Well, it's a poster. I found a picture of it online, but it's a poster. It's meant to be hung up and looked at. And in terms of the genre, this is the genre of the public service announcement. It's there to be free and to the public so that they can get something out of it, to something for the larger public benefit. Format. So how does it look? Well, what's just on paper when I originally saw it. In terms of how the text itself actually looks, it's got brightly contrasting fonts. It's got bright colors, but not a whole lot of colors. It's pretty simple. Why? Easier for people to see. I mean, you don't have to be overwhelmed by a lot of color. Visuals. It seems to be kind of funny. You see this guy who's about to get hit in the head. He looks like he's in pain, but he's on his phone. That seems to be kind of funny. And the language is very informal, and it's kind of conversational. It's almost every day. And the style of the language here, the rhetorical choices, it's also pretty straightforward, direct, and brief. Okay. The more important question for rhetoric is always, so what? Why does all this matter? I think the most interesting thing here is this question. This is funny but serious. Why? How? Why choose it to be that way? I guess they're trying to target an audience that's young, and they think that young people may take something seriously that's funny. I don't know. So now my question to you is, what do you think? We're here at the question portion of the academic inquiry process.